there we go. Yeah. Not them. That doesn't. Theirs doesn't react that way. It's just here in the room. It's just here in the room. Yeah. I have to have everybody turn their microphones off here in the room until they want to talk. So, if Tommy and June want to talk, hey, man, Robin, you got your own phone, right? You want to get on? Okay. Well, if you want to talk, you'll have to go over there and get on with their computer. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Yep. Did I record? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Hello to Mo, Ro, John, Ron, Bill, and Jennifer, Kelly, Lucinda, and Sloan, Kathy, Dawn, Ed, Uncle Dave, and Damon. And Damon, I want to report to you, I called him this morning. He was doing fine. He's still in a convalescent facility in Auburn. He's recovering and feeling better, but still has a way to go before complete recovery. His biggest complaint is the food, and he can't have visitors. But his number is on the notes that you can get when I record them tonight or post them tonight. Okay. He usually doesn't answer when you do call, so you leave a callback name and a number. And I'm sure he would appreciate hearing from some of you. Okay. The next thing there was that link to Ray Stevens, and you'll see that later on. Here's a quote from Francois. You know, Francois wrote or translated the Mirror Bible. He says, our problem has never been to exaggerate the gospel, but always to underestimate it. Somehow it's not been the case with the devil. Did you get that? We've always underestimated we failed to exaggerate the gospel. You can't exaggerate the gospel. There aren't enough complimentary words about the gospel that you could exaggerate it with. But somehow we've always exaggerated the power of the devil. Hello? That must be Shadow. Is that Shadow? she put on, muted her microphone. All right. So he said, when Paul sees principalities and powers disarmed at the cross, they continue to be largely exaggerated for centuries. Okay. Paul saw them disarmed at the cross, you know, and I've taught that for a long time, that, you know, everything was defeated at the cross. Whatever there was that needed to be defeated, it was defeated at the cross. And so it is, if we allow any defeat in our life, we of course, we're usually blaming it on the devil, like Flip Wilson said, the devil made me do it. But Christians really do that, you know, it's the devil's fault. And it
was Flip Wilson.
Huh? That's what I said. Yeah, Flip Wilson. Yeah.
Okay.
So he, but Paul sees them all disarmed at the cross, but they continue to be largely exaggerated for centuries in Christendom. So just remember that, and I'm glad Francois sees that. Of course, I mean, he sees a lot of things we don't see. All right. My take on the current disasters. That's the Corona-19 and consequent madness, and the George Floyd murder and consequent madness. And my question is, justice or retribution, and to or for whom? Oh, okay. They're going to turn the noise off here. There you go. That's a lot better. Could you guys hear that?
No.
Okay. All right. I think I talked a little bit about the coronavirus and stuff last week. And of course, one of the things that a couple of the doctors that I had seen on Facebook, their post was taken down off of Facebook for some reason. But anyway, they said this is the first time in history we've ever quarantined healthy people. You quarantine sick people, but what we've done this time is quarantine everybody. And of course, I don't think it made much of a difference. We have over 100,000 deaths in this country. And of course, the thing that should not be a mystery to believers is that, you know, we shouldn't be afraid of death. And so 100,000 deaths, to me, for the people who died, hey, they're better off. Now, we who are left, obviously, when a loved one or a friend dies, we grieve, and we feel we're not better off, and because our friend or loved one has been taken from us, and so this goes along with the George Floyd thing. You know, I'm in complete sympathy and empathy with his family, but for George, he's in great shape. And now their family might not understand that, and might not understand my little bit of a laughter there, but you know, he's the one that everybody should be envying. And the Apostle Paul would certainly say that. He said, you know, it's better if I go.
Oops, I lost you.
Well, yeah, but
Oh, there you are.
yeah, Robin was saying it was the way he died, and obviously the way people die, especially when it's sudden and they're taken from us suddenly without our expectation, that's really tough. And been there and know what that's about. But the important thing to remember is the one who is taken from us is in good shape. He's in the best shape he's ever been, he or she or whoever it is. And it's those of us who remain who grieve, and rightly so. But we should not grieve without hope. And this, excuse me, so those caught up in the coronavirus and who have died, I have nothing but envy for them. Now, for the families who are left, I have sympathy and empathy because I know what it's like. And now when we go with this George Floyd, I keep wanting to say George Foreman, but this George Floyd deal, of course it was a horrendous thing that this cop did. And yes, he
cruel. It was cruel.
Hello?
It was cruel. Oh, yeah.
Was somebody trying to get on or what?
I think I was, can you hear me?
Yeah, now
Yes.
I can.
Yeah, it just seemed like when everybody witnessed was cruelty. And that's what was hard, I think, for people to see.
Yeah, yes, it was cruel. And now, you know, and probably the cop is going to pay for it. Yeah, if he doesn't, if he gets off somehow, I'm afraid that there's going to be a worse reaction than there already has been. But the point is, with this George thing, although it was wrong, he was wrongly he was wrongly abused and murdered, and of course that's wrong. However, that does not justify the reaction by all of the rioters, especially, and when I say rioters, I mean rioters, not people who protest. Protesting is fine, peaceful protesting, and I agree with that. And that is something I don't personally take part in, but I certainly don't have a problem with those who peacefully protest. I'm more of the Martin Luther King kind of protest, and as I've looked back over history and see some of the things that he said, he got a bad rap, and because I think he was very peaceful, he was very thought-provoking, and when I was young, I didn't really know all of that, and I was raised to think ill of him because of what he did, but I no longer do that. I really believe that he was a good guy and was doing a great thing for the Black community. Anyway,
If they don't like it, they
get,
love
yeah,
us in the answer.
get on
It's
there.
very simple. If they don't like it, then they say love us in the answer.
Who doesn't like him? Tommy says
The
they don't
general-
like. Who?
The general people, intellectuals, don't care for the love message. Period. They don't. They'll say it, but they don't care for it.
Okay, I'm going to try to repeat what Tommy said. The general public, you said?
The general, yes, the general intellectual.
The general intellectual public does not like the love
message.
message.
Message of MLK.
Beg your pardon?
The love message of MLK.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. So anyway, but there's no justification for all this stuff that's going on. And yesterday, and I've said in my notes to you guys or my email, that I was really dry. And of course, part of the problem is I've been watching the news and watching all this rioting stuff, and it was getting to me. I had stopped years ago. I stopped watching the talking heads and the newspaper. I just get my Yahoo blurb news, and so I don't normally hear all this stuff, and so it doesn't really affect me all that much. But this has really affected me, and so I was pretty dry, and Sis contacted me last night, and I told her about it, and so I said, "How about you helping?" And so she came up with the Ephesians 6:10 to 18 verses, and so. By the way, before going any further, anybody else have anything comment to say about either George, what was his name? Foley?
Foreman.
Floyd.
No, it wasn't Foreman. Oh,
George Floyd.
George what?
George
Foley?
Floyd.
Floyd. Oh, okay, yeah. And this other thing. Before we go any further, we'd like to hear from you.
Oh, man.
All right, well, now let me ask you this, because I think maybe Donna was going to ask you, but I'll go ahead and ask you first. How are you coping with it or dealing with it? I think coping is a thing that is okay for the average person. I believe the believer should not be coping. He ought to be overcoming. But anyway, but if you're only coping, that's okay. Any
But I tell
comment?
you, Mike, it's a process. That's the thing. Because people, I mean, you know, you're seeing things and you're taking in things, and you have to process it. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I kind of think I want to talk before you read the scripture.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, when we were talking last night on the phone, I've been just so much. I mean, I'm still seeing a lot of, like 30 people a week, something like that. And so everybody,
Wow.
yeah, and it's everybody. Well, some of them are Zoom, some are in person, but I don't have anything to present, but I just got to share. So everybody mentions, right? Everybody has to emote a little bit, their sadness or their horror or whatever of the whole of everything. And it's been going on. And prior to that, it was COVID, and you know, there was a month of fear or fear of like not knowing, like what are we supposed to do? Like what do you do? And then, you know, everybody, because you don't know. So everybody's like, okay, let's just be precautious and do all that, do what we're supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. And so then gradually people become a little more relaxed. And so in all of this, I've got to keep a cool head, because people come in with high emotions a lot of times. And so it's being able to take those emotions and bring them back to some clear thinking, you know. And if people are believers, that's awesome. Or if they have faith in God, you know, it's so wonderful to be able to go that direction, to point them that way, you know.
Yeah.
But then just right off of that, and people are starting to feel like, wow, okay, maybe I can walk without my mask on. Well, yeah, let's do that. Let's get out there a little bit. I live in downtown Sacramento, right? So the last week has been, shock, right? Shock and awe. And then we got helicopters all over every night. Not last night, but you know, helicopters and sirens for nights. You know, sirens all night. And then people come in and they say, "Oh wow," you know, if they live downtown, they mention that. So, you know, it's I have to help people. I say, you know, you gotta take care of the micro. You gotta take care of yourself and your family. Put that oxygen mask on like you're on the plane before you know, make sure you're good. And the macro, the world, it's gonna take care of itself, and God's got it. We're gonna be okay, you know. So I find myself going back to certain scriptures, and that's what Mike was I think gonna talk about. But you know, and I keep thinking, well, we are in this world, but not of it. And what does that really mean? And I think, wow, we're here. We got to deal with the here and now. We got to deal with the AC that went off in my tenant's apartment. You know, we got to deal with the AC. We got to deal with the everyday things. We live in a real world, but for me as a believer, it's this little light of mine. That's my job, you know, and I want to do it happily and stay clear-headed and know that God's got the whole world in his hands.
Wow.
But I know those scriptures that came to my mind too. I know there's a battle, there's evil, but it's really what goes on in our head. That's bigger and more powerful than what's on the street. It doesn't sound like it because you're witnessing it. But this is where it's at.
Right.
A clear mind.
Right.
But I want to know 14 through 18 because I really want to know what all that means. I didn't have time to look it up.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, well, and of course, one of the verses that we keep quoting all the time here in this group is that Paul said, "Be not conformed to this world's way of thinking, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And so when your mind is transformed to recognize that God has everything in his hands. I don't say that God controls everything, because if he's controlling everything, and if he's controlling those riots, then there's something wrong with God. But that's not what he does. He allows those things, but as Romans 8:28 says, "For all things work together for the good to those who love the Lord, to those who are called according to his purpose." All of this is going to work together for our good. We don't always see it. We don't. There's some of this stuff. I mean, I don't know how those riots are going to work for our good. I have seen some of this COVID thing. I've seen people take better care of other people through all of this. So I've seen some good come out of that. But how it's all going to come out, I don't know. I think there's always on both sides, like in the COVID and in the riots, there are people who foment this stuff, and they're going to be called to account at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, yeah. So were you through now, Donna, with that?
Yeah, you know, I just wonder how. I just wondered how everybody deals with it spiritually to get balance. You know, I'd like to hear. Well, and yeah, I'm done with that, but yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any comments? Junie wants to say something. Okay, turn on your mic, honey.
I'm trying. There we go. Were you unmuted?
Unmute it. There you go.
Oh. I can't unmute it. I can come.
Tommy will. Unmute. Can you get it?
There we
unmuted
go.
now?
Here we go.
Okay, okay, can I be heard? All right, in the first place, men was murdered. In the second place, none of us watch people being murdered. They
Slow down. Slow down.
murdered, not just murdered gently, but in horrible, horrible circumstances and cold blood. I won't even watch violent movies. I cannot watch murder. I cannot watch killing or raping. I cannot watch children beat up. I can't watch women beat up. I just watch Hallmark. But anyway, those things get in your brain. There's probably thousands of people in the United States murdered every day. But this one was picked up, and because it was a policeman, and because it was black and white, which are, we're kind of a tinderbox in this country right now in black and white, and it's been blown up to the point that that's why people get excited. They get out there and fight and march. And, oh, this is awful. Well, it is awful. But you can't make two awfuls make it right. You can't go stealing and rioting and killing other people and fighting and make a murder right. That doesn't do anything. But there's nobody that knows how to control this kind of thing. I think the president had to take some kind of legal military action, or we'd just be going crazy all over this country. Everybody'd be fighting, killing each other, and be rising everywhere. And that only way to stop something is to use stronger power, in a country to stop something. New York kind of slowed down a little bit. But they said there were hundreds of people just going through Macy's stealing. Well, what good did that do for the murder? There was people that want to steal, and they want to, yeah. Well, they're probably afraid. And the military, of course, is not quite so scared.
Well,
That's what I was going to say.
the military has a lot more power and a lot more people. So,
but it was a murder. The cold-blooded, really bad murder.
What
I
was?
agree.
Mr. Floyd?
Floyd, yeah.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
sure it was.
If I was his mother and I saw that, I'd probably be out marching and shooting people.
Sure you would, yeah.
Could you all hear that? Could you hear what
Yeah.
June's saying? Okay.
Yeah.
Turn it back off, dear. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, one of the things I hadn't said yet was that the murder, there are 16,000 homicides in this country every year. But this one homicide has sent the United States, well, not the whole United States, but thousands upon thousands of people have gone nuts, in retaliation for this one murder. And the other 15,999 murders didn't seem to bother them a bit.
But this is by somebody who's supposed to keep you safe.
I agree with that. But
Yeah.
again, when you look at all of these statistics, this is a statistic, but it's not one that is prevalent. For example, there are more black people murder black people than white people murdering black people. Now, yes, this was a cop, and he should have been vetted and should have been out of there a long time ago, and somebody failed. But again, this does not justify the reaction that has gone on in this country.
I think one of the problems is everybody's been hunkering down and they're on edge anyway. And so this is giving them an opportunity to express themselves just because they want to, and it just it fuels it because there's so many people that are not working and that have time on their hands, and they think it's a cause, and yes, it is, but not stealing and rioting in that
Right.
form. Protesting is one thing, but I think that I don't think it would be as much if we weren't in the situation we are with the COVID-19 right now.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be as bad.
Yeah, I think that's exacerbated it, certainly, but again, I think it was probably going to happen. This is kind of a pent-up thing. I've some Black friends that I know. Matter of fact, I don't know if Donna knows them. Mace and LaWanda Dickinson, and they're Black folks. We had met them first in Sacramento, but they moved to the Bay Area. But they had already been talking about this kind of thing, and how their lives, how they and other members of their family have been unjustly stopped and unjustly harassed by police. And so this is a problem that they have to deal with. There's no question about that. And they are what do you call it, profiled, and oftentimes, and just for no reason other than they're Black. And my heart goes out to them for that. I don't know what to do about it except that, and we're going to get into what I think our job is and what we do already. It's just that there aren't enough of us yet, and the gospel has not been reclaimed fully as yet as it should be. And of course, the gospel of love, and love is the only answer to this. There are no political answers. There are maybe political diffusions or some political actions that temporarily, stop things. However, no political action is ever going to rid us of racism and many other things that we want to be rid of. And so that's what we need to remember. Politics isn't going to do it. I don't care who gets elected this next time, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden or whoever else that they may come up with, because I really got a feeling that Biden's probably not going to be their final guy, but maybe he is. I don't know. Anyway, this, again, one man's murder, unjust murder, obviously, has set off this chain of events. And again, it is not justifiable. Yeah, we can see people have excuses, but excuses are not justifiable. And so when you take somebody else's property or take somebody else's lives, I mean, there have already been several policemen who have been shot. Some other people have been shot and killed, and all because of this one thing. And I think too, because the folks who's, number one, his family probably is not doing any of this. They're probably not fomenting it at all. We know that there are people come out from who knows where, and foment this rioting. And so who they are, I don't know. Again, if God's not in control, we're in trouble, okay? If God doesn't know what's going on and he's got the whole thing fixed in the final analysis, then we're all in trouble. But I believe that he has, and so my trust and confidence is in him. All right. Anybody else have anything to say so far? All right, here's the verses that Donna came up with last night. Ephesians 6:10 through 18, and I'm reading through the Holman Christian Standard Bible. Finally, be strengthened by the Lord and by his vast strength. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in the heavens. For this reason, take up the full armor of God, so that you may be able to resist in the evil day. And having prepared everything, to take your stand. Stand therefore with truth like a belt around your waist, righteousness like armor on your chest, and your feet sandaled with readiness for the gospel of peace. In every situation, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Pray at all times in the Spirit with every prayer and request, and stay alert with all perseverance and intercession for all the saints. Now, obviously, these are words that have to do with war and have to do with conflict. However, yeah, Tommy says spiritual warfare. Again, though, I go back to what Francois said in the quote that I put in here. Our problem has never been to exaggerate the gospel, but always to underestimate it. Somehow it's not been the case with the devil. And so consequently, people like to take these verses in Ephesians and think that this warfare is something that is immense and huge and powerful, and that the devil has a lot of control. And I say to you, if that were the case, obviously our words or probably our instructions would be to fight back. But in this Ephesians letter here, Paul's not telling us to fight back. What's he saying? He's saying to stand.
Stand.
Okay? To stand firm, stand fast. Okay? And you have a shield of faith to ward off the arrows or the bullets or whatever is going to be coming our way. We're talking metaphorically here, of course. And that's what we have. And the shield of faith, Paul says, really above all, that's your most important weapon. But it's a weapon of defense. The only weapon of offense that we have is the gospel. Okay? That's the gospel of love. Okay? That's our offense. Defense is one thing, okay? And right now we're we tend to be in that defensive mode with all that's going on around us in the world. But that's okay. We have a defense. And the Lord is our shield and buckler. You know, so we have everything we need. And so that's to me, Donna, that's what your question about those particular verses, what is that? And
what those things represent. Yeah.
Yeah. They're defensive weapons, not offensive weapons. And our offensive weapon is the best there is. It's love. And love what?
One another.
Love
everyone, one another, right?
Yeah, well, love everyone. But what's love? Love wins. Thank you, Mary. And
Thank you.
Okay, so love wins. So remember that. And now I had some more verses here to go with that. Exodus 15:2. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him, my Father's God, and I will exalt him. Psalm 28:7. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and I am helped. Therefore, my heart celebrates, and I give thanks to him with my song. Psalm 118:14. The Lord is my strength and my song. He has become my salvation. So when the Bible, you see the verse that says, because the King James, I didn't King James actually tells you to stand fast, okay? But you don't stand fast in your own strength. If you try in your own strength, you're going to fall. You're going to fail, okay? And but this real strength is God. He is your shield. He is your defender. And so you put your trust in him, and that's how we stand. We don't stand saying, well, I'm going to just knuckle under here and I'm going to get my faith all built up and I'm going to, I'm just going to stand and I'm going to be great for the Lord. Well, lots of luck, okay? Because the Lord is likely to let you go and with enough pressure put on you that you fold. So that and he doesn't do that in retaliation because you fail to trust him. He does that so you learn to trust him. If tests come upon us that are grievous and tough, they are there for us to learn to trust in him instead of our own selves, okay? Trusting in ourselves is well, you've done it. I know you have, and I know you know the difference. So I won't belabor that point. All right. So then I had some more verses here. 1 Corinthians 15:28. When everything is subject to Christ, then the Son himself will also be subject to the one who subjected everything to him, so that God may be all in all. Carl, were you with me? We were talking to somebody about God being all in all. Oh, it was Mike, wasn't it? I couldn't think about who it was.
I remember that.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking today, I said, who was it that we were with? It just now came back to me.
It was Mike. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So Ephesians 4:6, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in all. Colossians 3:11, in Christ there is not Greek and Jew, or circumcision and uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, slave and free, but Christ is all and in all. So in all this that we're going through, Christ is in us and he's in everyone else. Now, obviously, there are a lot of people out there rioting and doing all these things that they're unaware that God is in them. They're unaware of this. And so what is our job, if we have a job? What should we be doing in this time? Of course, not just in this time, but all the time.
Loving them.
Loving them, all right? Yeah, loving them. Loving and giving the gospel, okay? Here's, so where did I find it? Where did I put it? I lost it. Oh, here it is. St. Francis of Assisi. He said, preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. Now, we've quoted this before, but this really is I don't know much about Francis of Assisi. Carl could tell us a lot more, but I did look this up today to see who it was that said it, because I'd heard it before. Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. So how do you preach the gospel without using words? Tommy said actions. What kind of actions?
Love.
And he says, he answered his own question. Love. That is how we do it. That's how we give the gospel. That is the gospel. Love. Okay. And so
you want to hear how Assisi did it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, he was set up to take over his dad's business and inherit it, and he rejected all of that and took all his clothes off and walked out of town naked and went and lived with the poor the rest of his life
Wow.
and lived with them and like them to experience their pain and help them through it. Very special guy.
Wow.
was quite quite a story.
That's
Yeah,
love.
And
Yeah.
he had a girl that he really loved and was interested in, and she wanted him to marry him, and he wanted to marry her, and he said he can't. He's got to do this. He's got to spend his life doing this. So he gave up. I wouldn't recommend that to everybody, but it shows the power, how important this was to him. That's why he's in history.
Wow.
Carl,
He ended up getting
go ahead.
taken before the Pope, and because people were really upset with him, and the Pope at the time said, "No, this guy's doing the gospel."
Yay.
Right there in front of all the cardinals and bishops, he said, "This guy,
Was
this guy's
there-
the real deal."
Why did they take him before the Pope?
Because he's a threat. He's a threat to the religious
Of course.
establishment. He's out
Gotcha.
he's out helping people, and he's not, getting in line
Yeah,
with
okay,
things,
great.
right?
Yeah, great.
He was
a
living-
rebel,
he
but
was living
the right
Jesus.
kind of rebel.
Carl, didn't he attract or somehow with animals and things like that? I mean, you always see that a lot of St.
Did he
Francis
what?
It was
animals.
St. Francis.
St.
And-
Francis.
Yeah.
What
I don't
what
know
is it,
anything.
Peggy?
I don't know
What-
about the animals,
you
but
don't?
yeah, I know he went and lived with the poor, and lived like them, with them. Lived dirt cheap.
But you don't have any
For a week,
thoughts or
his whole life.
No,
relationships?
but
He went and did
you
it.
always see like the statues of St. Francis. You always see, maybe it's because he lived outdoors, but there was always birds and animals, and I always
Oh,
was,
he might have been, in touch with nature type of guy too, because that's the manifestation of God's creation. I don't know. That would make sense for a guy like that.
okay.
Anyway, that's how he showed love. It was action, and probably action more than any of us would be able to take. Not only because of our circumstances won't let us, and my wife sure wouldn't let me, but I'm not sure I could live like that my whole life.
But in other words, he joined them in their pain.
He did.
Yes.
He went and he said, "I'm not going to live in comfort." He was set up to be rich and have a thriving business. He went and threw his dad's. Dad has a clothing business. He went and threw all the clothes out the window to people for his whole stockpile, his whole what would you say, his inventory. Threw it out the window to all the commoners, and then left town without any clothes. Quite a
Wow.
guy.
Right. Well, and of course, that's one guy, and that's much like Paul, the Apostle Paul.
Yeah.
Paul he actually gave up everything. I think he was probably pretty wealthy before he started out as an apostle.
It is.
But he became poor. He had to work for a living to provide for himself most of the time. But now, so some people just automatically say, well, that's what everybody should do. And I say, no, that just because Paul did that, or just because Francis of Assisi did that, does not mean that that's what everybody else should do. So we should not feel guilty if that's not our particular calling. So
it takes a special personality too, and it's that all-in kind of person that they don't turn back and they don't quit, and it's just who they are. It's the kind of person they are, and it's the way God made them. And they set a kind of example for us that we don't do exactly what they do, but in the spirit of what they did, to the degree we can, that's the direction to go.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So just remember, whatever your calling is, be content with that, and
that's right.
And do what the Lord and you work out to do, and it is not necessary to emulate someone else in their particular doing. For example, I teach and share the gospel here. Most of the rest of you aren't. Carl has the same calling, and at least I think so. I'm not sure.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you are.
I'm a pastor with a small p instead of a capital P.
That's right.
Mike and
That's
I
all
talked
there are.
about that today.
There aren't any pastors with a big P except in their own minds.
Well,
so
no,
anyway,
they have that.
yeah.
They have that job. They have that job.
Yeah.
That's a special kind of calling too. But
Well,
I think
you know,
we can.
you're ministering to whoever's in front of you.
That's right. So that's what I'm
That's
saying.
right.
We're all pastors. We're all
That's
right.
pastors with a small p.
Yeah.
And what did I say today, Mike? Pastorettes.
Oh,
Mike-
very good.
Mike wasn't
We-
sure that'd be allowed. I believe it is.
Carl and I have a dialogue going about something in his future. So anyway, we'll leave that for another day. But anyway, yeah, we're all called to. Whoops, somebody's here that wanted to be admitted. Okay, probably. I don't know who it was. Probably. There he is. Have I been?
Oh man,
There's Dwight.
Rip Van Winkle. He's
Got your-
awoken.
Got your voice on, Dwight? Can you hear us? Hello, Dwight. You there? We see you.
He's frozen. Oh,
All
there we
right.
go.
Anyway, okay, we see you. Yeah. All right, buddy. Okay. Glad you're here. Yep, there he goes. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So anyway, back to where we were. Let me see here. Like I said before, go to the notes. Those of you who are out there not here, and see the links that number one for that Ray Stevens video, but then this other one is the song is linked to the video of My Everything, and I thought it really was a great song. It's a new song, as far as I know. I mean, at least it's a modern song. Let's put it that way. It's not an old hymn, and I don't even know how I knew it. All of a sudden, I just started looking. There's a song about My Everything, and I don't remember hearing it before. And I went and looked it up online, and sure enough, there it was. And this guy, I forget his name, but it's a good song and a good video. And so I recommend that to you very much. Let me read the rest of these verses that I had here for you. 1 Corinthians 1:20 through 25. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world through wisdom did not know God, it pleased God through the foolishness of the message preached to save those who believe. For Jews request a sign and Greeks seek after wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified. To the Jews a stumbling block, and to the Greeks foolishness. But to those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God, because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. And I think those are some great verses to remember, that God's foolishness, which was the cross, was far greater than anything, the wisdom of man, and that was his weakness too. His weakness was the cross. And but that is the gospel. That is the good news. That is what the whole world has partaken of, but most of them don't know it. So just live the gospel, folks, and enjoy living it. Enjoy loving. Okay, and I say to you, you can do it because it is God doing it in and through you. When you walk in the power of the Spirit, you walk in the new creation that you are walking in love. Now, when you walk in the flesh, you might be walking in some kind of human love, but it's not divine love. Divine love is all in and through the new creation that you all are. And again, we are all one. We are all equal. There's not well, Tommy, I have to give Tommy. Tommy says he's God's favorite, but you know that he's just sharing that we're all God's favorite because we're all one being in God, and this is why it's difficult for me when I see the riots and the people hating and robbing and looting and killing, and they are living so far beneath the privileges that we have in Christ Jesus. Our privileges are all great and wonderful. And I was thinking today, it's hard for me sometimes to actually give God the credit for all the blessings that I have been bestowed with, because it sounds like if I share with somebody about God's blessings to me, and the next person, they haven't had those same kinds of blessings, then they think I'm bragging, and I certainly don't want to do that. And yet I don't know that God blesses one. I know he doesn't bless one over the other as in terms of favorites. And I was thinking, I was taught many years ago, well, it's if you take in doctrine and you grow and you become mature, God will bless you. Well, again, that sounds like a lot of works to me. And I look at the Apostle Paul and say, wait a minute, he's far more mature than I am. And he lived a life of poverty, a life of struggle and beating and so on. And so I know that that's not the case, can't be the case. And but what I really think is that when we walk by faith, we are walking in dependence upon God. We don't depend upon ourselves, and therefore we are freer to think more clearly and to act more responsibly and to do things that create a better life for every one of us. And unless you're like the Apostle Paul and called to a special job, or like Assisi, Francis of Assisi, called to something special. And when they're called to that special, their poverty was not an issue with them. What they had to endure was not an issue. They were walking where God wanted them to walk and where he had called them to walk. And they enjoyed it. So those are some of the things I just wanted to share with you, and say that, by trusting, by believing, we are enabled to think better, to hear better the voice of the Holy Spirit, and live a life that is more enjoyable and more free, and one that people may want to emulate. So anyway, any other comments?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I really appreciated Mike and June and Donna and all that you had to say at the beginning. It was very, very helpful. And I want to point out one thing that Donna had to say that I thought was particularly good. And that's your idea that get your oxygen mask on before you try to help others. And that's a great analogy, because I think it's easy to get a little crazy and fearful and anxious. And so get that oxygen mask on and settle down and be one who can help others get their mask on. And we got to keep our mask on, because it's easy to tear it off and go, get anxious again. So I thought that was really good, Donna.
Thank you.
That's a good reminder of how we need to kind of be calm and just take it one step at a time and get our take care of business with ourselves first, so we can help somebody else. That's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I was thinking too, all these shield and warrior things, kind of reminds me of the Narnia Chronicles, watching those kids out there. I don't know if any of you have seen the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but these kids are out there with all these things. And C.S. Lewis all those things actually meant something, you
Yeah.
know, and that was, you know, it was, but I a lot of times will say, just stay in your Jesus bubble. It's a little, you know, it's not a shield, but I don't know. That's why I think of just, there's a Jesus bubble that if you can stay in it, we're in it, right? Just be aware. It's like,
Yeah, and it's not, it's like Mike said, it's not hiding. It's
no,
get in that bubble and then head out to wherever and
And
take
know
that
you're
bubble
okay.
with you.
yeah.
Take the bubble with you and let it protect you while you're ministering to people and just being there for them.
It's like the bubble where, you know, you can't break it though. It goes in and
Nope.
out.
No,
Right.
it's not breakable, but it's very flexible.
Yep, very
It's a
flexible.
very flexible
Yep.
bubble, and people will sense that it's flexible as you interface with them.
Hey, Donna, do me a favor and touch again on the micro and the macro. I
Yeah.
liked that today when you shared that with me.
I use that a lot, especially I use that a lot with people on the coronavirus because, I mean, I really didn't know what to say, but people were freaking out, and I would say, yeah, I would say, you know, your job right now is to worry about the micro, and that is you and your family, and just take
Right.
care of yourself, and the macro will work itself out because you have no
Right.
control over the macro.
There you
Right.
go.
You
Good.
do have some earthly control over preparing, but have a clear mind about it so you don't get all emotional, and then you can't think because when people are emotional,
Yeah.
they panic.
Then you're part of the
Thank you,
problem.
Donna.
Then you're part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Donna. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
excellent.
so I
You don't want to
really like that about, I like the micro, deal with the micro, the macro will work out. And,
It will work itself
yeah.
out.
and so anyway, okay. Anybody else have anything to share before we go? All right. Well, love seeing everybody and glad for your participation. And I think we'll probably be around next week if the riots don't come over. We heard that they're going to start going up to the smaller cities where all the whites are, but who knows? I'm not going to worry about it. Number one, if they take me out, it's been nice knowing you. I hope you all see me in heaven one of these days.
Oh, Mike. Okay.
All right. Love
Thank
you
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 all.
so
gotta
much.
make 80, Mike. You gotta make 80.
Well, that's about, 10 more days or 12 more days, I guess.
There you go.
All right. Love you all.
Love
Bye.
you.
Okay, love you, Mike. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.